everybody. Welcome back to Everything Actually with me, your host, Ashley Fisher. Did just try recording a little intro and then got distracted because my windows are open right now. So naturally, everything I hear, I'm like, and then I lose my train of thought. But no, we're going to focus now. Today's episode is going to be all on stereotypes. The pros and the cons to them, what I think about them, and why we use them to keep ourselves safe, as well as obviously the harms to them and how it could prevent us from a bunch of opportunities. So, let's get into it. My first note on it is don't judge a book by its cover. Everybody knows that sometimes there could be a book cover that's like, it looks so crazy and insane, and then you read it and you're like, this is the most boring book ever. And vice versa. There could be a book that has a plain black cover, and then you read it and you're like, wow, that was the most crazy, intense, insane book ever. I'm glad that I didn't just pick one with a cool cover. Obviously, that's like a metaphor, but also real. So, I said, but it looks that way for a reason. And the OG reason, the original gangster reason was to keep us safe. They're not always right, but there's a reason everyone can agree on some things without blatantly stating them. So, I don't even want to, disclaimer, everybody knows stereotypes exist, okay? And as I said, I'm going to go into the good, using that word very loosely, as well as the negative aspects of them, but you can't deny that they're there. You know what I mean? If somebody looks at me, you're automatically going to assume some things about me. It's just what you do because our brains are wired for pattern recognition. That's why sometimes we think we see things that aren't actually there because our brain wants to feel safe. And the way to feel safe is to say, hey, that's familiar to me. That's how it was last time. That's probably how it's going to be this time. Your brain just convinced itself that to be safe. So if you see somebody and you're like, oh, I know somebody who looks like that, they're probably going to act like that person. Obviously not necessarily, but that's just how people's brains work, okay? I'm not here to say people don't stereotype, you do. The important thing is about if you let those initial judgmental biases keep you where you are, or if you investigate them to see if they're legitimate or if you're just being unfair. So this is what I was saying about, like, keeps you safe, right? Let's say you're in the woods. You see a big, ginormous bear. He's big. He has huge claws. He's going like, even if he's not going like that, even if he's just like, got big teeth. Now, being you should go, oh shoot, that is bigger, a lot bigger than me, a lot scarier than me. This is where I'm saying don't give them that chance of saying, oh, I'm going to go up to it and see if it's cuddly. No. You're going to be safe. You're going to follow the stereotype of most bears are bad, and you're going to find your way out of there. You know what I mean? So now you're stereotyping that a bear is bad. However, you are making this stereotype for your safety, to literally save your life, okay? So now this can be the same as when it goes for people. There might be some people that you're attracted to or some people that you avoid based on previous patterns that you've had with people who either have similar characteristics, similar traits, similar looks, anything of the sort. So I said to connect to the bear example, connect that with someone in your life. Let's say you keep going for tall athletes with big muscles and no brains. That's a jock stereotype. So you keep going, like you keep dating them, right? And they keep manipulating you and just not treating you good, and it ends the same every single time. Now, there's a few things that go into this pattern, right? Number one, you keep going for the same people, that jock stereotype that I'm describing, because it is what you feel safe in. You are continuously repeating that pattern because it is what you are safe in. It is, like, scientifically impossible for you to feel safe and also grow, right? You need to put yourself in an uncomfortable, unknown situation to be able to grow past that. So, as I said, if you're attracting this one stereotype of man, it is because the universe, God, whoever, which I mention all the time, is saying like, hey, I'm going to keep giving you this until you learn your lesson. And next time a nice, tall, muscular, no-brain jock comes up to you, you're going to say, hey, actually, maybe not. Now, this can go with anything, not the point of the episode, but sometimes the universe will keep giving you things until you learn your lesson and you grow. But you won't be able to grow until you break that pattern and step into an alternative timeline of yours. Once again, neither here nor there. Now, to give the little back point of it, this isn't to say every tall, muscular athlete is going to be manipulative, is going to treat you not good. So, the point of saying that is, that doesn't mean to never ever go for them ever again. However, there's a reason that stereotype exists. Okay, don't hate on me yet. I'm explaining myself. There are a reason for these stereotypes. And the point that I'm trying to say, like, be careful, that doesn't mean that every single guy who looks and fits that description is going to act how the past have acted. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a rule. It's just a stereotype. It's kind of a guideline, you know? But I'm saying you could be giving that other person as well as yourself an unfair advantage to say, hey, you look like this, you probably act like this, because that's how other people who look like you have acted in the past. Okay, so now this is where I said it can also be something good, right? So let's say I'm a Libra, right? Generally, I get along with Pisces. If you don't care about compatibility and zodiac signs, just bear with me for this example, okay? Or let's just say that you get along with people who are older than you. Those are your friend groups. You can't hang out with people who are 2-3 years younger than you because you're more mature or whatever. So back to my example, as a Libra, I get along with Pisces. So I'm saying that every Pisces that I see, I would think that we're going to be best friends because in the past, I've had a lot of Pisces best friends and it's always worked out good. So similar to the past pattern that I was saying, if you negatively assume with the jock example that every jock is going to be the same, they're all going to be so bad, on the opposite end of the stick, if you're always going to assume that every Pisces is going to be best friends with you, you're once again reaffirming that belief. It is now in your reality. It's just what it is. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm going to get along with every single Pisces ever. However, this is like pattern recognition that is happening in my life that I just assume I'll get along with the Pisces. Which brings me into, I wrote for this note, said, I'll always expect them to be besties with me. I reaffirm this by telling myself we get along so well, we never argue, which is then like law of attraction. And I don't know if it's called law of affirmation. That doesn't sound right. But just by affirming that, saying I always get along with Pisces, when I meet a Pisces, I'm automatically going to be like, oh my gosh, we're going to be best friends. I don't know if that's a little different because it goes into zodiac compatibility, but once again, up to you if you believe in that or not. So, now we're going to go into the negative aspects of this. It is, stereotypes are bad when you confine somebody to them. Let's say you see somebody who, I'm not trying to feed so into stereotypes, which is why I'm sticking with like dumb blonde, dumb jock, because I almost, like, yes, those are harmful, but yes, there are others that are a lot more harmful. I'm not talking about those, okay? Not talking about those. So, I'm saying it's bad when you confine. That is the key word, confine somebody by it. That is when you tell yourself, oh, she's blonde, she's stupid, I'm not going to talk to her because she has nothing worthwhile saying. That is bad. Now you were negatively judging that person. Because I also want to say, I don't know if this is true or not. I feel like I would need to literally make a list. I think stereotypes are most of the time negative. And that's kind of why I attached it to the concept of being safe. Because if you see based on how somebody looks that they're scary, that they might hurt you, now you're protecting yourself. Like, you stereotype to, I feel like, avoid them. Like, if you say, oh, they're this because they look like that, I'm not going to talk to them, I'm going to avoid them at all costs. But it also could be the same as like, oh, she's really pretty. I'm going to stereotype her as being friendly, because usually pretty girls are friendly. Now that's a positive stereotype, but I was going to say it has no basis, but it's like, hey, do any stereotypes, you know? That's why I was saying, if most people can reach a consensus about something, it's just a repeating theme. Okay. So where I was going with this. Example. If you assume someone will or won't like something versus assuming, but asking. So I said, I think this was like a good example because it's a stereotype, but it's not I don't think it's a harmful stereotype. I said, for example, kids stereotypically like candy and sweets. So if you're like a second grade teacher and they really behaved for a substitute, so you're going to reward them with candy. Candy, you're being stereotypical in saying most kids like sweets and candy. So I'm going to make this generalization to hopefully appeal the majority of the kids in that class, right? Now, I said this would be also if you're going to like gift something to athletes before a game. Now, you're not going to stereotype athletes with second grade kids. So if there's a bunch of athletes prepping for a tournament or something, if it's literally 2 hours before the game, you don't show up and say, hey, do you guys want candy? Obviously not. Maybe some of them will, because as I said, stereotypes are not always 100% accurate, ever, at all. So maybe some of them are going to say, yeah, I need this sugar rush. But I would assume that majority of them would say, if I eat a lot of candy, I'm not going to feel good. I'm not going to be ready for a peak performance. Versus if somebody were to present them with vegetables, I think they would be a lot more excited to receive vegetables over sweets, as opposed to kids. If you were to present kids with vegetables or sweets, I would assume majority of them would choose the sweets. So that's just kind of a little stereotypical example. So this is what I was saying. I was like, with these two examples, you're using past generalization / what you already know to make an educated future guess, right? So I'm saying you can make safe generalizations. So if you say, I usually get along with the quiet kids, so I'm going to approach the quiet kids and try and be friends with them because I'm usually always friends with them. Or you might be harming yourself in your growth is, let's say that there's somebody who is super duper outgoing in the class, right? And you're like, oh, I could never be friends with them. I'm only ever friends with the quiet kids. Now you're denying yourself and that other person the opportunity to have an awesome friendship. Yes, I can understand. Maybe you get along with the quiet kids for one reason or another. Maybe you most of the times don't get along with more outgoing people for one reason or another. Like, there's a reason why you're kind of attracted to certain people. You know what I mean? But to go out of your comfort zone, like, you guys get what I'm saying, right? That it's just mean to judge somebody and deny them from being your friend or from approaching them or from conversating, giving them basically an equal opportunity at anything because of how they look. So that was my little quiet kid example. And I said, your brain sticks with what's familiar because it thinks it's safe. You can't grow in that state. You need to make yourself / do something different or new. That's what I said. When is it bad? Once again, whenever you 100% believe in stereotypes. Always know there's the possibility you can be way off, so never 100% assume. This reminds me of, have you guys ever seen when there's like, I've seen a TikTok of a group of goths. There's like 3 of them, and they're wearing like the white face paint, big black eye makeup. I love it, love it. And they have like really cool like jewelry on and this and that. And there's one of them that there's like this little sweet kid, and he's like, oh, like, I want to talk to them, like, I want to whatever. And the girl, like, goes up to him and is kind of being like, oh, yeah, see, this one's a snake, isn't that really cool? This one's a dragon, don't you love that? And she's just so good with kids. And I would assume a lot of people would think that these people that dress emo maybe look scary, or wouldn't be good with kids, or might be mean, or something along those lines. And it's like, that's just not true, like 100% of the time, you know? So I just think stuff like that's really cool to see. And it's like, imagine now if the mom who was with the kid was like, oh, no, they're scary. They're mean. They don't want to talk to you. And then it's like, in reality, I don't want to say took that chance, but for storytelling purposes, took that chance to go and talk to her. And then she ended up being super sweet, super nice, whatever. So I knew I wrote something about the Yankees. So I said, taking away an opportunity from someone based on assumptions, as I briefly addressed a little bit before. I said, don't assume someone doesn't like baseball because they don't wear a jersey every day, right? But then I also said, you can offer someone an opportunity based on assumptions. So let's say that you get 2 tickets to the Yankee games, right? And it's you and you don't know who else to bring. Oh no, what should I do? And you say, you know what? I'm going to bring somebody from my class. There's 20 kids in your class, right? You're like, Now, there's one kid who wears a Yankee jersey twice a week. He's the only kid who ever wears Yankee merch, right? So now you can stereotype, assume that he is a Yankees fan. And you know what? It could be wrong. Maybe he's just on the bandwagon and likes the logo. So that's why I'm saying you can't 100% stereotype. However, one would assume you can make a safe guess that he is a Yankee fan. So if you were to go up to him and say, hey, would you like to go to the Yankee game with me? It's kind of, I don't want to say safe, but you see where I'm going with this. Versus, let's say there's this girl, right? She does her hair every single day. She does her makeup every single day. She wears the cutest outfits and skirts and heels to class every day. And you go, oh, I'm not even going to bother asking her. There's no way she's into sports. In reality, she loves sports. She just doesn't like to wear a jersey to school. But when she gets home, she looks up all the stats and she has a blog about it and da-da-da-da-da-da. So it's like you're denying this girl who is a massive fan the opportunity to go to a Yankees game because she doesn't look like a Yankees fan. But in reality, she's a bigger fan than the kid who wears his jersey twice a week. That example just being that you can't always trust stereotypes, and that it's like, I think that I'm wrapping this up because I've said, oh, yeah, we're getting to my overall. I said, other not good. Don't assume someone won't like something. Here's a huge one. Just be nice to your friends in the first place, but don't ever, I was gonna say I don't love sports. I don't know what I would say my love for sports is. You know what I mean? But none of my friends would assume that I know any sports stats. I can name maybe like a few players here and there, whatever, but like, I'm not the go-to girl to be like, oh, what were the stats last night? Never. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't want to go to any sports event, any bar, any house to watch the game. Like, I will happily watch any game, any and every game. But guess what? Maybe I don't look like the type who likes sports. And I'm not saying, maybe, whatever. With that example, all I'm saying is invite your friends to things. I would be so upset if somebody were to say to me, let's say they went out to a football game, right? And I was like, oh, wow, that looked so cool. And they go, oh, I didn't think that you would like football. I didn't think you would like to be in the cold. I didn't think you would like to come. Because now they're making a judgment call, like, on your behalf. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, so first off, just always invite your friends. Don't ever be like, oh, I didn't think you would be interested in coming. If they're really your friends, you would always want them there with you. So I just think that's such a shady thing, but not the point of this episode. So I think to wrap this up nicely, overall, never negatively assume something about someone. For example, all blondes are dumb. Unless it is in regards to your safety. If you see a big scary bear, don't be optimistic and think, maybe this one is friendly. My next bullet is saying you can always ask. We stereotype because of pattern recognition, but that's not always reliable. We tell ourselves these stereotypes are the truth because it makes sense to our brains and makes us feel safe, but really it's limiting our world by assuming everything we think is a fact. Which is honestly a perfect place to end this. Don't ever assume, because then you make an ass out of you and me. My mom has been I've heard that saying probably when I was like, in the bathtub at 4 years old, I swear. But yeah, just never do that. be nice to everybody. And yeah, guys, I hope you guys took a lot away from this, because I've just been thinking about it a lot recently, about, like, I guess how people view me, how people approach me based on how I'm perceived, based on how I present myself, you know what I mean? And also just trying to not be as biased or have personal bias about people I see, because as I said, we're all stereotypical. You naturally do it. But I remember hearing something that it's like, I was gonna say there's two voices in your head. I'm pretty sure there's not supposed to be multiple voices in your head, but first, let's say you see somebody walking, right? And you're just like, oh my God, they are so ugly. That's your first thought about them. And then your next thought is, hey, why would you say that about them? Just kind of canceling out that original thought. I remember hearing something that it's like your original thought is what society has conditioned you to think, and then that second thought is your actual thought, which I completely believe, and I think's something really cool that you guys can track for yourself to see if you are in control of your subconscious, so to say. If you're just thinking things and going along with it, or if you're conditioning yourself to be a better person, you know what I mean? So I'm saying it might be natural for every time you see a blonde to go, oh, she's so stupid. But then, if you're a good person, you should condition yourself to say, why do I think that? Who taught me to think that? Like, why am I following that trend? Why am I not thinking for myself? And then go, oh, not every blonde I meet is dumb. That's actually a really harmful stereotype. Hello. All right, guys. Hope that was a nice little food for thought. Yeah, I came up with that topic. I was driving earlier to the radio because my phone was dead. Yikes. And yeah, guys. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Oh! All my socials are linked down below. If you guys want to check me out on the TikTok, on the Instagram. What else we got? YouTube, Spotify. YouTube's kind of my favorite. I'd say to post on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify. Perhaps. All right, sexies, let's wrap this bad boy up. Thank you so much for joining me today. You will be getting 2 episodes this week. All right, sexies. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining. And thank you. I think I messed that up. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And thank you for everything, actually. Bye, guys.